Hello and welcome to Work University. I'm Annalisa Felix. I'm always asking people why they do what they do for work and how they got there. So I figured why not share this information? So thanks for listening and let's dive in. Today I talked to Holly, who is the Director of IT, Information Technology, at a major television production studio in Los Angeles. We'll talk about what her job day-to-day looks like and the path she took to get there, as well as lessons learned along the way. If you're interested in getting a different perspective of working in IT, then this will interest you. Let's listen. Hello, I am here with my friend Holly, and we are going to talk about information technology. And Holly, tell us what your position is and a little bit about your company.
I'm a director of information technology, and I'm working in the entertainment industry. So I support the broadcast environment, productions, things like that, network, make sure things are up and running.
Okay, so if I don't know anything about IT, what does that mean to me that things are up and running?
That means that the internet's on, that files are being transferred, that people can see the shows, and communication is up and running in the environment.
For the entire...
For the studio that I work at.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So how many people work under you?
Well, right now, what I do is I manage projects. Mm-hmm. So there's many different departments in IT. Mm-hmm. And I work with all those different departments to make sure that everything's running smoothly, our upgrades are appropriate, there's no impact to the customer, and if there is an outage, that we resolve it readily.
So what kind of teams do you work with? What do they do?
I work with the network team, for instance. They make sure that if the internet has gone down, that they do the hardware analysis. They do all sorts of analysis to make sure and find the problem and get the hardware back up and running. What I work with is the customer to get their experience, to make sure that they feel that it's going to be back up and running soon. And when it is back up and running, telling them what happened and how it won't happen again.
So what kind of customers do you work with? Other companies or people individually, or what?
I work at the studio that I work at a pretty high level. So I'll work with the different directors, and they might support a production company. Like a game show, let's say,
okay,
is on the air,
okay,
in an area, mm-hmm. and they're taping, mm-hmm. and all of a sudden their internet's not working, and they can't use Skype. That becomes a big problem because all of a sudden they're on air, and then they're not on air. So we need to make sure that we have backups, we have redundancy, that we have all these kinds of things happening, so that if that ever happened, we'd have a failover for them, and God forbid it does happen in broadcast. You never want to be down. So
has that ever happened live?
Yes.
Okay, so that's one of those things where hopefully it happens
rarely
during work hours, where everybody's on hand to help out if that does happen. Okay, so in the game show realm, so what else do you do for game shows?
Well, we do all sorts of things for game shows. One of the things that I support is applications. I support different applications for the companies around the game show that sell the ad spots, or I work with the game show that works with the audience members, mm-hmm. The winners, make sure they get their prizes. So there's all sorts of different things that go around a production or a game show or even a live, talk show. Mm-hmm. There's so many things that happen that are integrated, and I work on the applications that help them.
So you work on the data systems for each of those points. So for instance, if you're working on a game show and I think you worked with like prizes.
Right.
So you would manage one of those teams who works on the database to make sure prizes, get paid or distributed, or
that's exactly
their advertisements and things like that.
That's exactly right. The advertising is a huge industry, and it's very important to the company that I work for, advertising revenue. Advertising, there's different kinds. There's placement on the show, physical, like toothpaste, or there's an advertisement that talks about travel. There's different kinds of advertisements. So I'm working on an application right now that we're developing for what we call ad spots. So there's different kind of fee spots and ad spots. And it's for this company that I work for, And it basically right now they're all in spreadsheets. They keep everything in spreadsheets. And so we're moving them from spreadsheets into an application. So they'll have one-stop shopping, and the company will have full disclosure of what's happening with their assets and
So
with
would
the
that
money
then break
management.
down, okay, contract A gives you this many spots, this many placements, this many days of the week.
That's
for
right.
X amount of dollars. Contract B, more and so forth, and they can
Right.
pretty much self-service at that point?
Right, and there's also a concept of availability, what you haven't sold. And that's really what they need to get to now, because what can I exploit, right? I've
Now, when you
sold,
say exploit for anybody, like, what does that mean?
it means what's left for me to sell that I can make money on. Because
How can I make money, right?
how can I make money? I've
Exactly.
sold all these spots, let's say, but what's available, what's left over? And how can I sell it to another advertiser? How can I promote it to another show? You know, and what's going to be awesome is now that we have this application, and they don't have to spend so much work on their spreadsheet. They can have their staff thinking of concepts and ideas and add placements, and so they can expand the
Wow.
business of sales.
You know, that is a whole category in itself, and it's so interesting because when people watch TV and they're just, oh, that, you know, Sea-Doo looks great, or that, you know, computer looks great, but we don't think about what has been placed in front of their eyes and what the company has done just to get it there, and what you have done just to organize the placement and so
Right.
forth.
It's big business.
And I don't want to, you know, in the interest of time, I could totally take up this whole conversation on that. But as information technology, from an application standpoint, what is it that you manage a team to do, like on a daily basis? What are they doing?
If the application is in place, we monitor the system security. We monitor the servers. You know, the customer never wants to buy a lot of servers, but what we do is we have a test environment, a production environment, and a failover environment. We always make sure that we practice a catastrophe, so we can fail over to New York and the show will still go on.
Great.
So we control all those environments. Like I said, the network team needs to make sure it's available. The firewall team is involved, which is security, to make sure that nobody can get into those assets.
So you manage the quality, the QA team as well?
Right.
Wow.
So right now when we're developing this application, we have to work with the customer, we have to work with the developers, we have to work with the infrastructure, meaning the hardware teams, the whole kit and caboodle.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is huge.
Yeah, it's very
Good
fun.
for you.
Oh,
I
thank
love that.
you.
So that was more of what you do, and I love that. Thank you for sharing. So tell me, how does one get to be a director of IT at a major studio and manage all of this? Where did you start? And
Well-
did you think that this would be where you are?
No, I graduated with political science and economics major from the University of Washington in Seattle. And I really, the only thing that I did right was that I always had a job. And my mom was in government and was moving up the ladder, and she gave me advice that I listened to. And she says, get yourself a little office job so you have some sort of a resume. Even though all I was doing was photocopying and filing, I had a resume when I graduated. And from that resume, I was able to get a job, a job on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And then from there, they noticed that I had a way with spreadsheets. And so I learned Excel. I learned different Macintosh tools. I learned PC tools.
So then you finally, oh, wait, I can do that piece. And so you took to it and they noticed.
Right.
Okay.
But what it is I asked for opportunities. When an opportunity came up, I asked if I could do that thing, whatever it was, even if it was photocopying or filing. I didn't particularly care. And even if it was a little bit over my head, I've always stepped in above what I think I can do. Because you know what? You can learn it. There's mentors available to you. There's opportunity available to you. You just have to ask and step into the opportunity and do your homework. You know, make sure that you understand a little bit of what you're asking to do.
Maybe research your company. I wonder if there are people out there who work somewhere and haven't researched their company and are just kind of going in with their head down doing A, B, and C and then going home.
Right. And I would spend time looking at different job descriptions.
Great.
And I would always look up the acronyms. I think Wikipedia is the best. It has all the industry acronyms.
Back then there wasn't Wikipedia.
It wasn't a Wikipedia.
So what did you do?
I would ask a mentor or somebody that I
Mentors.
Trusted.
That is another
Exactly
chapter
right.
we could totally talk about. Touch on
Right.
that just a little bit and how that affected your career path.
Well, what happened is in every environment there's a boss, and in every environment there's people that see you as an asset if you're a hard worker. I was always a hard worker. I was always on time. I always did my job. I always asked for more. And because of that, there was people who were kind to me. And they might have been bosses. They might have been just coworkers, but I would use them as a tool, let's say, to learn what they did. What is it that you do? Oh, you write for the papers for the senators on Capitol Hill, the briefing documents. That's really interesting. How do you do that? Well, I'm an attorney. I went to school, all these things. So I would learn how they did those things. But how can I help you? You can help me by formatting it. Oh, okay, I can do that for you. And then all of a sudden I was promoted into the formatting of the briefs for Capitol Hill. Who knew, right?
Because they don't want to work. They don't want to do all of that computer work.
But I
They
could
just
do
want it
that.
to happen.
Right, I could do that for them, and I learned. And so then, when I moved to Seattle, I moved back to Seattle. I got a temporary job, just filing papers again, but I had a resume, and I got an opportunity in this company. I asked them, "What is that job right there?" And they said it's a data analyst. I had no idea what a data analyst did.
Tell me, what is a data analyst?
A data analyst at that point was looking at secured portfolios of real estate assets.
So you're an intern looking at secured portfolios
I did that
as an analyst.
as an analyst.
Because you just said one day, what is that? I want to
Right.
do it, and now you're doing it.
That's exactly right.
Oh, okay.
And I had mentors that helped me.
That's great.
And then from a data analyst, I learned about what it meant to test. I didn't understand that concept of testing, QA, quality assurance testing. So when I for jobs, it was a tough job market. We moved to Los Angeles for a lot of reasons. I got online and I saw a job for a QA tester. And when I read the job description, I understood it. I understood that they were testing applications. I didn't understand the applications they were testing, but I understood what they were asking. I looked up the acronyms, I looked up the terms, I looked at the methodologies, and I asked questions. So when I had my first interview, I was able to say, yes, I've done regression testing. I had the knowledge to say what I was able to do. Again, I was way over my head. I became a QA tester at a bank, and testing applications and managing projects.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, just looking in the IT world, nobody thinks testing applications when they think IT. Or maybe, you know what? Maybe it's just me.
Right.
Because when I'm, thinking of just general support positions and general positions that we hear of growing up, firemen, police, lawyer, doctor, whatever, who thinks of applications testing and quality assurance for major companies? Nobody does.
Right.
And that's why I want your knowledge for everybody to hear. It's so great. So, analyst, you were talking about at that time you were an analyst, and then
Right.
and then how did you get to be on your path to sunny Los Angeles doing some really cool things for a great company?
Right. I think it was baby steps, and again, learning from my mom that I always kept a resume tidy, and I always tracked my own accomplishments.
Did you always have it with you?
Not with me in my bag, but if I ever went on an interview, I always had copies.
Sure.
I always had my mentors from my past jobs. I never burned a bridge. Never burned a bridge. That would recommend me. That would say I was a hard worker, etc. So I always had good recommendations. I always had a resume, and I always had a list of accomplishments. And I think any interview is an opportunity, even if it goes south.
Sure.
you learn from it, and you prepare for it.
Yeah.
I would actually sit and actualize out loud my answers to my interview questions, looking at the acronyms, spelling them out, understanding what they were, and I would sit in my car and I would quietly talk out loud so that I could hear my voice when I was answering the questions.
And even if you practice it 50 times, it's never going to go the way you want it to.
Never. But if you have a couple sentences that you've practiced about how awesome you are, you can actualize those and they come across. And especially just making sure that you're a confident person, and that even if you don't know the job,
Right.
you come across as a good worker. So that's very important.
So let's fast forward into how you got your foot in the door at a company that a lot of people would fight to get into.
Right. Working in the studios, I started at the Y2K testing as a QA analyst. And what happened is I started managing projects for them as a consultant, as a QA, a quality assurance analyst in the technology area. And what they had to do at that time is test every single application in the whole studio to make sure that it was compliant for the year 2000.
Were you a replacement? Well, oh no, this is a new position.
It was brand new.
Nobody had done it before.
Nobody had done it.
Okay, great.
So not only was I over my head, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know the applications. I didn't know the methodology that they used. And I didn't know the people.
But you walked in and said, all right, let's do it.
Let's do it. What I did is give me a template and I can do anything. Show me what you want and I will replicate it.
Sure.
And that's what I did. And there's never a dumb question. There's inappropriate times to ask questions sometimes, but listening, taking great notes, and then reflecting back on your notes with a question, absolutely. I still take notes to every single meeting I attend. I have the attendees, I have the notes, I have the comments, I have the next steps. Period, end of story. And that's how I started.
Right.
By taking notes.
And then, but at that time you were just in the door. How do you go from there to being director of IT?
I became a project manager. I got hired on as a project manager. And because I had gained some proprietary information in my skill set, I was able to negotiate a really good position right off. But I had a mentor there too. I had a team of people who respected me because I was a consultant. I learned their trust, earned their trust, and I was able to get a manager position. And from that manager position, I worked in that position. It was really political. It was crazy for about 10 years, and it was very, very difficult. But what I saw was an opportunity in a different area in the same company.
Is it safe to say that all of this is unknown at this point? Because you're going into positions, you're making job descriptions of things that need to be done that have never been done before.
Right.
Wow.
I was clueless as I was moving along. But what I did is I learned and asked questions. I learned methodology. I learned terminology, acronyms. I learned the business. That's the most important part, is make your customer feel comfortable.
Customer service, another.
Right.
I love it. Okay.
You have to have your customer comfortable with you, and you have to have your boss never feel stupid. You always explain to your boss in easy terminology what's happening with this customer and what the next steps are. You always give answers. Even if it's a tough situation, I always have a couple options of answers, because my boss doesn't know. How would they know my circumstance or what I'm in unless I explain it and give them options? They might have a better option, which is hopefully the case, but I always provide answers.
Perfect. And I'm going to be asking just a couple more questions here, but I want to acknowledge that you have the expertise, you have the ability of foresight to think a couple steps ahead, you have the ability to buffer the employees under you as well as the ones above you, and have customer service, a great personality, and some technical experience under you as well. So you're kind of the whole package, and I don't see that a lot. And when you do see it, it's like gem, because companies need that type of person who can, talk to people, help them build, build a path in their career,
Right.
and give them constructive criticism, as well as, hey, you know what, you might want to be looking, ahead at what you want to do in the next couple of years. And not a lot of people do that. So kudos to you for being like that, because I've been very fortunate to have managers who are, great with people and who are sharp. And so awesome, I love that. So one of my last questions is, if you had to give some advice to someone who was thinking about getting into IT, whether they're in high school or say they're looking for a job change at age 45, what advice would you give that person?
A couple things I would do. The industry has changed a lot. In the sense of having certifications and things like that. But it depends on your skill set. If you're a people person and want to do some management, take some methodology classes in IT. Like UCLA offers a great extension course, and it's at night, and it's 1-year program. And what it is IT methodology, and it gives you the opportunity to get the terminology, there's so many rules right now in IT. We have to be very careful with the security, with the financial controls, what's called SOX. We have so many things that we're responsible for, that the customer comes to you and says, I want this. We have to be responsible enough to say, we have to slow down, and here's the rules that we have to follow.
Right. And you probably have a different set of rules, probably from the government, probably from the state. I mean, state government, whatever, but different types of policies that are given to you as such a public figure, that you need to be check, you have to have all this.
Right.
Check, you have all of this. But who thinks of that?
Right.
Because you're trying to manage and keep everything up and running.
You're trying to go. But the reality is I would say, if you have a good work ethic, if you make sure that you're always a team player, stay out of the politics, stay out of the gossip at work, stay focused.
That's hard.
It's what you got to do. You got to stay focused.
It's where you spend most of your life. How are you supposed to just ignore really juicy gossip?
You got to stay out of the gossip.
Okay.
It's my people know I don't gossip, so they don't bother. I'm a relationship person. I of course care about your kids and your family.
Sure.
But I'm not going to gossip about my boss. I will not gossip about that other employee. What I will do is I'll work as a team, and I'll support my boss, so my boss is never surprised by anything that's coming up. And I always support my customer to make sure that they always get what they need in a timely manner.
Can you clone yourself into 25 different people? Oh, wow, that's great. Thank you so much. That was my last question. Is just kind of, what advice did you have for people, who want to further their careers or maybe even change their careers? So thank you, Holly, for coming in and sharing your experience with us. Again, as a director of IT at a major studio here in Los Angeles and Hollywood, I very much appreciate you giving me your input and your perspective on what you did to get where you are, what you do, and maybe some obstacles and advice. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. This was fun.
All right. Okay, till next time.